welcome to another episode of Prattle with Tré Vayne for connoisseurs of casual conversation. Each week, my guests and I will chit-chat about an obsession of theirs that captures their passion and their soul. This week, we're headed to the Capitol, we're looking for clues, and we're going full Inspector Gaga. Let's go. They say you can't have it all, but they must not have met our next guest. Saransh Desai-Chowdhry is a dynamic marketer, critical writer, and classically trained musician. But once you meet him, it's abundantly clear he is so much more. A great friend, a phenomenal listener, a music tastemaker. Saransh is everything. Welcome to the podcast. Hello,
Thank you
hello.
so much. Thank you for having me.
I'm
so happy
excited
to be here.
You were one of the first people I was like, oh my gosh, when I was like, I'm doing the podcast again, I was like, Saransh, it's got to be Saransh because you are a genius. You are a music genius. And we met, and this is not an NYU podcast, but every podcast is probably going to start with we met at NYU because we did.
Right.
So yeah, we met. Did you like NYU? Were you an NYU fan?
I did like NYU. I do feel like there is a bit of a stigma around NYU experiences, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
But I did have a great experience. I think I used to tell people that anyone could make it work there. I now feel like I was there at the right place. Like I was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
It worked for me. And I cherish my memories there. But I definitely also understand some of the criticisms.
Yeah, I just feel like everyone, it's like cool to hate NYU. Everyone who goes to NYU likes to act like they hate it, but I think a lot of people really loved it. But I also understand when someone's like, it was the worst thing ever, it ruined my life. Like I can see that, but I'm like, but I don't know, that might just be like college rather than NYU itself.
True.
But people like to say they don't like it. I'm a big fan. I was a big fan when I was there, and I just had a good time.
I had a great time too. Also, being 18 in New York City.
It's amazing.
And like so unfettered and being able to meet incredible people and just take on new experiences all the time was so valuable for me.
It's actually insane when I think about how monumental and life-changing like going to NYU was for me. And like now thinking about that, if I was thinking about how big of a deal choosing your college was when I was 18, I don't think I would have ever made a decision. I would have been so stressed and so scared.
Yeah.
But I think I made the perfect decision. It was like beauty.
Did you apply early?
No, I was way too afraid of commitment. I was like, didn't know how I was gonna pay for NYU. So I was like, the misinformation was crazy because someone was like, if you get in, they make you pay. I'm like, there was actually there's no fiscal way they're gonna force an 18-year-old to like pay $250,000 if they didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't do anything early. And then I went to a school where everyone was doing it early. So like everyone knew where they were going to college by like December. And I was like waiting until like April like a peasant. But it was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. Were you early? Were you?
I did apply early. I was on the fence for a while and then toured junior year and just absolutely loved it and knew that.
Yeah.
And namely Gallatin, the program I was in where I got to make my own major was just such an exciting concept.
Delicious.
So I did apply early and really wanted it to work out, and I'm glad that it did. And that was just such a crazy period, like the college search process. And I wish that I could go back and tell myself to take it a little less seriously.
Right.
And tell the people around me that it's the difference between each college is more marginal than you think it's going to be.
Absolutely.
You just have to make the most of your experience.
It's just the setup of like meeting people, like-minded people and doing whatever you want to do.
Exactly.
And everything else is just like by the wayside. But did you study music in college?
I did not. So my major was thinking about ways to apply business for social impact and also kind of evaluating the extent to which commercial apparatuses can assert social good because there are a lot of limitations.
Yeah.
So looking at, for example, if a marketing campaign includes elements of diversity and inclusion, how much positive impact can that actually have if some of the financial tentacles attached to it are ultimately detrimental to the communities that they claim to serve. So it was sort of like,
God, someone's doing that. Like someone's got to do it. That's that's amazing. That's really beautiful.
I don't think I was like a practitioner of like, here's how we make business socially beneficial, but it was more so like, why don't we think critically about this? Like, because it's such a buzzy topic, especially for Gen Z to align social and financial incentives. So I was curious, like in this era, but also throughout history, how has that panned out? And music was the outlet for that. So I was just really involved in music as a performer myself, as someone thinking culturally about music, writing about music, and then on the business side, interning, like managing
Y'all,
artists,
and like Saransh
just like fun stuff like that.
is underpainting all this. Saransh is iconic, legendary,
You're
very
gassing
involved in the
me
music
up.
space, a writer, a Fulbright. I'll say that.
Gosh.
And just like we are both alums of the Big Purple School, our topic today was also an NYU student who was there working it, giving it her all, dropping out to become a superstar. And today we are talking about the one, the only, Stephanie Lady Gaga Germanata.
Mother.
A round of applause. A round of applause for Mother.
Joanne. Some would say Joanne. She would say Joanne for about 15 months. She was just calling herself
like
Joanne.
Just the pop star, our pop star, our pop legend, our pop icon of our time. What was your first encounter with a Lady Gaga song?
Wow. I actually do remember this. I don't know if anyone had a Mac as a kid. This was my first.
Like the big fat ones with like the clear ones?
A little bit, probably like 10 years after that. It was just like a Mac, like in like 2009. But there was this app called Front Row where you could preview the top charts on iTunes in this more like cinematic format. And I remember scrolling through, and I think Poker Face was number one. It was February 2009. I saw the preview of Poker Face, and I immediately was so into it, but so confused.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really scandalous because I was like 10 years old. And I also thought that she was like a super established artist that I just was not aware of. I did think she was like 40 years old because she just looked so otherworldly. Like I couldn't pinpoint like an age, like when did she launch. And so that was my first introduction. It wasn't until later that year when she had kind of like taken over the pop culture world. I think when I heard Alejandro, the demo, before the Fame Monster came out, that's when I was like, okay, she's not someone that I'm just fascinated by. Like, I love this woman. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because now I'm such a big fan of electronic music, house music. I'm really into thinking about music production. Hearing Alejandro's production at that age was so influential because it just crescendos so much. And
it's insane. When
the verse hits and she starts singing, like Gaga and Red One is just an insane pair. So I think that was like the inflection point where I was like, I am a fan of Gaga. But yeah, it was a slow build for that year.
I remember I heard like Just Dance and I was like, this song's stupid. And then I just moved on. And then I heard it again and then I saw the video. And then it was like her and those big dogs. She like comes out of the pool with like soaking wet in latex. And I was like, oh, like possibly my first gag. Honestly, my baby's
I don't blame
first
you
gag.
at all.
Yeah.
I think for many.
And
I think we all sing it, but I think a lot of people.
Yeah. And I remember she was the first artist who would use words that I was like, what is that? She was like, my disco stick. And I was like, I could feel that it meant something, but I didn't know what it meant. And I was like, what's her disco stick? And like in Just Dance, she was like, we're getting hosed tonight. And I was like, what is that?
What does that mean?
I was so titillated, but I was like, it was immediate too. For me, I was just like this. And I didn't even know that I was like into pop music like that. And then with her, I was like, okay, this is gotta be everything that I need and more. But I can't believe, like, I feel like I heard Alejandro so much later in my Gaga life. So it's like cool that you got there like early. Like, I don't feel like I was there. Like that feels like so deep in my Gaga stand-up, but I guess it wasn't. I guess it was still pretty early.
I think she just captured everyone's attention to the extent where any move she made garnered a lot of attention. So even as a kid, I got exposed to one of her album tracks at the time.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to think about what she accomplished so young, first of all, which I could not conceive that at that age. But now that I am 25, I'm like, she was at the Grammys at 23, 24. She was collaborating with Beyonce a year and a half into her career, which is like a badge of honor that most artists don't achieve at any point. She was getting recognition from legends. Yeah. And I also feel like the thing about her that always drew me to her was she's oozing with humanity and sincerity. And so she was leveraging all these highly commercial, visible platforms to be a genuine human being. Yeah. And there was just no one else doing it like that. I still think there's very few, even though there are many artists I love and admire who are incredibly successful, she's one of the few that is so sincere while being so visible.
Right. And I also think about like because I remember when she was first coming up, they had all of those like crazy, that was like the nasty era where everyone was like conjecturing about everyone else's genitals, right?
Right.
And I can't imagine, people can barely like get through a like, do you support like Black lives without like fumbling?
True.
But like imagine like being in the 2000s and navigating people calling you like not okay words, people asking if you're trans in a very insensitive way. And the way that she like not only took that with stride, but also took that, was educating and also was like funny. And she was like, you know what, if I have a dick, who cares?
Exactly.
Like it's, yeah, she like really does. She's very sincere. She's very authentic. And you can tell that she was like, she wants to be a pop star in the sense of like, she wants to be someone who's contributing to culture that people look up to. She wants to be the person that does everything. Like I love how she, because I know a lot of people don't love her like acting era. She is going to eat Joker. The Joker Folly Ado, she's going to devour a movie musical like nothing else. And I am just so like thrilled that like she is doing the damn thing and like we get to actually see it. And like I will say, I did have a period where I fell off a bit. I was never an adversary of hers, but Joanne lost me for a moment. And but even through that, it's like I can still look back at Joanne and be like, you know what? That's a person who stuck through an era. I have to respect that. It just wasn't my era, and that's okay.
Absolutely. I think something that she, I guess, educated me on, and that a lot of artists that I admire speak about, is that being a true fan of an artist means respecting them enough in their entirety that you navigate the ups and downs with them and let them experiment and explore.
Oh my gosh, they're like dating.
So no, absolutely. So my mindset with Gaga is I love her, I respect her, I think she has so much integrity, and she's such an excellent craftsman when it comes to everything that she does, that I will let her go down any path she wants to go down.
Her down that yellow brick road.
I think all artists deserve this. This is kind of a tangent, but Lorde has a ton of fans. Not everyone loved her last album, Solar Power.
Right.
And my philosophy is she gave us 2 10 out of 10 albums. Give her her little experimental smoking weed in New Zealand album.
Yeah.
She'll come back. Like she's
Let
Lorde.
us smoke a joint on the beach and come back to us, yeah.
I think sometimes we think that people's most recent performance is indicative of all their potential, but I don't agree with that. And Gaga, look at what happened with her. There was a period when people wrote her off, and she came back, won an Oscar, started this huge makeup brand. Like she bounces back.
Yeah, she's never, and that's because at the end of the day, when you have like, you know, clout comes and goes, right? And you can have the most clout in the world, and tomorrow everyone doesn't care. But the people who like keep it in the legend, it's like, because she is an artist, she's an original, she's talented, and she can sort of like do anything. And speaking of the Oscar, because I was thinking, because now she's 2 little letters away from EGOT.
True.
If you could fan cast it, what are
the little letters?
Just 2 little letters, you know, just a stupid little Tony and a Emmy. But what are 2 of your dream projects that she would do to get her Emmy and her Tony?
Oh wow! So because I care about her, and because she takes such a method approach to acting, I want her to do a comedy, a romantic comedy. Yeah. I want her to embody a character that is happy and at peace, because I feel like she really lets the characters pervade every aspect of her life. How nice would it be if envision like a really peaceful Gaga? And I also think that press tour would be really fun. She's very funny. She's very witty and sarcastic.
She does deserve a rom-com. She deserves like a happy little, she deserves like a happy, sunny little musical on Broadway.
100%.
To get her little Tony.
I do think that would be fantastic as well. Is that your dream project for her, a musical?
Well, because I was thinking, because I was like, you know, she is such an actor, but I kind of want, in my mind, she'd get her Tony from like doing a Cyndi Lauper with, what was that called? Kinky Boots, where she writes a musical with original music.
Right.
But I would think it'd be like,
she's so capable of.
Right. And I'm like, what IP could Gaga like take and make into like an original musical? Like, I'm trying to think of what's a famous, honestly, like she wouldn't, no, this is crazy to say. I was gonna be like, she should do the Paris is Burning musical. Don't do that. She shouldn't do that. But she should do something like a classic, like queer film that's turned into a movie musical, and she writes the score. I'm trying to think of what film she could do for that. Like, I mean, But I'm a Cheerleader. She'd be great for that. Like the musical version of But I'm a Cheerleader. I don't know. But like, I don't know why I'm discounting her acting, because she's a good actor. She could win an acting Tony, especially in a musical, but I don't see that for some reason.
I think it would be more of an uphill battle.
And
She'll get her musical Tony.
Yeah.
I also would love musically to see what she would create if she was less attached to expectations and pop cultural constructs for what's next for her.
Yeah.
She has proved herself to be really good at making avant-garde music in the past, and I think recently we've seen less of that, but it would be cool to get a full-on alternative experimental Gaga album.
Gaga,
I don't know if she'd do it at this point. Exactly. Like
that would be
following
that
the
would
footsteps of a Bjork or even Robin. Just someone who is extremely talented with tremendous reach.
Robin, that'd be sick.
How cool would that be? That would be cool.
That'd be really cute.
I do think like one of the things that I admire most about her and that I find most interesting about her is how much she speaks about fame feeling like a prison and being such a constricting force in her life.
Angel Mommy, thank you very much.
Her and all the greats.
all the greats. All future EGOTs.
Exactly. True. I think that she has really a really interesting perspective on how fame can separate you from the core aspects of what it means to be a human being.
Yeah.
And so she has talked about her creative process as well as her mental state being super hindered by the extent of her fame. I wonder if she would need to be a little bit off the radar for a while before she could dive into that experimental project that I was
You know what's interesting? Because Miley Cyrus recently got whacked because she was like, oh, like, you know, I've been working 3 jobs since I was literally 8. Like, I can't, I'm paraphrasing, but she said something to this effect of like, I can't be touring right now because I need to like be a human again to write music and to observe and be a part of that. And I feel like Gaga would probably.
Did she write her own music though?
Miley?
That's what confused me about that. Not to. I like Miley, but I don't know how much I buy it. She said as her perspective as a songwriter, I'm like, I didn't really know you wrote songs. In my mind,
Miley Cyrus has always been a songwriter to me, but I've never thought like I would never think that she's like a lord where I'm like she has a small writer's room. Right. It's like 3. I haven't. No, I'm sure
she is also so insanely talented and has such a creative vision. I don't. For some reason, I don't immediately think of her with a pen and paper in the traditional sense.
Because I would say like she's like less of like a Lana and Taylor Swift are in the vibe of like at least whether it is or not, you feel like that's their entire creative vision.
Yes.
But Miley's more of like her vision, who she is, but like you could tell she has people help her make into a beautiful commercial project. That's why she's such a big, massive success. But but I didn't think about that when she was like, I need to take time. And it's like, maybe she. But I don't know. I trust Miley's pen.
I do.
Some things came from the heart.
Yeah.
That came straight from her heart.
The early days, I trusted the pen.
Yeah,
for sure.
You're right.
I think she's had a really interesting, patchy trajectory. I will say, I don't mean to pit 2 incredible artists against each other, but I think something that I admire about Gaga that separates her from a lot of other people in the pop realm is her legacy is so authentic. Every step that she took, she did it with 100% intention and effort in that moment. Absolutely. Whereas Miley and many artists, they'll disavow their past work after the fact. She disavowed bangers, which ruffled a lot of feathers.
I hate when people do that. I really do. And like, I get it. You're going your own journey, but I love the journey. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're going through the journey. It's okay that you were there at that point. You have to be somewhere different now. But yeah.
But Gaga, I feel she's talked about how she has no regrets. She always made the decision that made sense in the moment. She has had micro moments of expressing regret. I think around Born This Way, she said she didn't like the song Telephone. I'm just going to pretend she didn't say that.
No, she didn't say that. I didn't hear that. That sentence can't be uttered under law. But let's think about this. In this, Gaga has regretted nothing. As an artist, right? Artists reach and poke and prod and make people think. Lady Gaga has had some moments throughout her career, as most artists do. And by the way, I'd like to say that I'm pretty, what's the word? I always call it my sleeper Republican beliefs. It's not actually Republican beliefs, but it's like things that I'm like, I know that like that aren't like more okay. Mainly being that when an artist does a faux pas, a cultural faux pas, because I know that Lady Gaga has done locks for the hair. She's done questionable tan jobs in the past.
True.
And she's worn cultural garments of different sorts and all that kind of stuff.
True.
Cultural garments aside, I can't speak to that because it's not my culture. But like for the other stuff, I'm not forgiving, but more in the sense of like, you know what? A weird artist girly who went to NYU would do those things thinking it's art. And you know what? She like doesn't do it a lot, so I don't think it's like that awful. But are you in your journey? Have you ever had moments where you were like, Gaga, you're pushing it, like you're pushing it for me specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's absolutely had missteps. I think she should do what she wants, but
Yeah.
maybe not all the time.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that when given the opportunity, she takes meaningful accountability, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's quite sincere. I also think that she's had progression throughout her career where she has taken sincere efforts to educate herself and allow her newer art to reflect that. So definitely, especially early on, I think she did a lot for shock value, and a lot of it was really cool. A lot of it held up extremely well. And we spoke earlier about how she has been super ahead of her time with a lot of her viewpoints.
Absolutely.
Definitely she's made some decisions that I have not loved. Even recently, I think she promoted some sort of pharmaceutical drug.
Oh yeah.
And it's a moment like that where I'm like, I believe she had the best of intentions, but I personally can't co-sign that. That being said, because I love and respect her, I'll offer her grace in this instance.
It's like, at the end of the day, the lights have to go on, and sometimes it's like, you know, sometimes the cut needs to be checked.
True.
Nope. What? The check
needs to be cut. But I think that logic applies to in my head.
Yeah. And I feel like she definitely, even like her raciness has changed in its like how she is. What I'm trying to say is I feel like she's had a progression on how she pushes the envelope, which to me says that she is learning. It's not that she does the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
Because she really hasn't done anything like culturally messy in a very long time that I've seen.
True.
That I've seen.
At a large scale, definitely not.
Yeah. Although she has kind of like, I feel like in the past, like, I guess since like Trump came into office, she is like weirdly very American all the time, which is not a bad thing. Like the Top Gun thing and her whole Super Bowl era was very, actually, let's talk about the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel about her Super Bowl in the like conversation of other great Super Bowl performances? Like, how do you feel that she performed in the sense of like what an artist needs to do for their moment?
I think she was extraordinary at the Super Bowl.
Extraordinary.
Because she jumped off the roof, then levitated down to her initial platform. She did full choreo. She sang 100% live with so much power and precision.
100%.
And she clearly creative directed the entire show, and she put her all into it, and she trained like an athlete for it. So I love that performance so much. I do know it by heart. I know every melodic line and refrain, including when she sang God Bless America. Like I know every part of it. Or was it? No, it was This Land Is Your Land.
Beautiful.
But it was really
because she goes for liberty, justice,
land that I love. She just went for it. I absolutely love that performance. I also think it's an interesting precursor for kind of the second peak of her career, which was A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
This was her proving to America that she is hyper talented and hyper driven, and I think it gave her more liberty to then garner more respect at that point.
The Super Bowl works well when people use it as the like, it's not like a cap, but it's sort of like a pin mark being like, just so you know, like I've got the music.
100%.
I'm an artist. I like have the catalog. I have the impact. That's that. So now you can see me in my other things. Because I feel like Beyonce did the same thing where it's
100%.
like, well, Beyonce's not like running towards movies, but she is running towards like film.
Yes.
Like that's her whole new thing is now making movies and films of her live concerts. But I think it's like, it's cool when the artist is like basically like, okay, so like I debuted as Lady Gaga and this act worked. I've made it work. And now like Lady Gaga, the legend, the like everything else is happening. And I remember like when they said she was going to do the Super Bowl, I was so excited. And I remember when I watched it, but I'm also a person where I don't ever trust my first intake of a piece of media. But I remember when I first watched it, I was kind of like, not like in a bad way, but I kind of thought it was going to be more 2010 wild shock,
like
Gaga.
Provocative.
But honestly, though, at that height, you can't be shocking. Like the NFL won't let you do it. So like I kind of understood that.
And she was pivoting at that point. I think she was very consciously avoiding her the reputation that preceded her at that
I agree.
point. Where I think she even said in her documentary 5'2" that she wanted to do the opposite of what people expected. She didn't want to come out with unicorns and a bunch of, queer men flanking her and like just like what we might expect from a Gaga show.
Right.
But I totally get that. I will say, I think part of the reason why I loved that performance is her. So I think anything that she would have done at that point, I will admit, I was just predisposed to love it.
Yeah.
But it felt particularly special at that moment. It was also my first year of college, and college had kind of been... I sort of like launched into college with this experience of having met her serendipitously. And so then in the spring semester when she did the Super Bowl, I was just still riding that high. So she could have come out and the mic could have failed and I would have said she did an incredible job. But I did really enjoy it also from like a craft perspective.
Yeah, and I feel like I rewatched like Katy Perry's, Beyonce's, and Lady Gaga's like last week, and I was like, okay, you know what? She did the damn thing. Her mic was so on.
It was absolutely on.
I
could hear her breathe. Yeah, her voice cracks during Million Reasons.
Her Million Reasons was the most like I was like, because I'm not a ballad person, but that was the most impressive part because I was like, she was just running. And also, like at one point, she's singing running up stairs right before the end when she like catches a little football. But yeah,
that was so silly.
It was so funny.
That was her Americana.
That was very Gaga. That, yeah.
So she's nerdy in her best moments in a way that I love and respect. You know what I mean? There's something so
she's
tender about
she's
that.
So like and she's like loving what she does and she loves America and her singing.
She loves America.
Yeah. So how did you even meet Lady Gaga? I need to know. And how'd you not die on the spot?
Yeah, it's so crazy. I can't believe I haven't told this story before. I think it's because I really consciously didn't want to make it my personality when it happened. But it's been 7 years now, so I feel free to talk about this moment. But essentially, I had just gone to NYU. It was 2016. First few weeks trying to make friends. I had a few friends, but kind of spread across Welcome Week and other activities. And someone posted on the NYU Facebook group, there are rumors that Gaga is going to be recording at Electric Lady. Do any Gaga fans want to come together and just see? So over the course of a few days, I made friends with this tight-knit group of Gaga fans, and we would just go to the studio to see, maybe she's here. Few days we missed her.
Okay.
And then it was one night, and I remember it was after my musical subcultures class with Amanda Petrusich, incredible writer at The New Yorker and such a crucial force in my life as a teacher and a writer. And I had been talking about Gaga in that class. So I was just primed to think about Gaga. Decided to go to Electric Lady that night. I had my backpack from school.
Oh my God.
And there was more commotion than usual. We were outside of the studio and within about an hour, she arrived and she came out and she's in the full Joanne fit, like cropped top and the denim shorts, and she started filming us on Snapchat. Then there were more murmuring. She got back in her car and people started saying she's gonna let people into the studio. So they start lining fans up and one by one they let us in. First of all, as a music fan and music nerd, being an Electric Lady was already just so exciting.
Yeah, so tell what's a little bit about Electric Lady. It's like very iconic.
Iconic
in a very
recording studio.
Regular random street.
Yeah, it's like literally across the street from I think Chipotle or something. it's a very history recording studio that's really small and intimate. Recently, many Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo have been recording there. Adele has recorded there in the past. Mark Ronson and Jack Antonoff are regular, visitors there.
Yeah.
And also so many legacy acts from the past. But so being an Electric Lady, it's dimly lit. I remember red and orange hues. We get to the bottom of this staircase that was right as you enter, and they have assigned release forms. In retrospect, I think they were filming us for 5'2", but the footage didn't make it. But we, at that point, knew there must be some documentary in the works because there was something about like video release. So we walk into this small room with a screen or we're filing into the room. I see this flash of blonde in front of me and I turn I turned to my partner at the time and I said, I think that's Cynthia, Gaga's mom. And a fan in front of me turned to me and said, no, that's her. And my heart stopped. And then she went to each person in the line. And by the time she got to me, I think what I essentially said to her is, thank you so much for inspiring me to care about music and art. You're the reason that I write about music, that I write music. And I really appreciate you. And I don't know if she actually was processing it as much as it felt like in the moment, but she looked at me with direct eye contact and then gave me a hug. And I saw her do that to everyone in the room. And that to me made me respect her so much. She knew how much that moment meant to each of the fans, even though how many fans does she meet every day, every month, every year. So we get into this little room with an auditorium. First, she played the Perfect Illusion video. She debuted it. And then she played all of Joanne a month before it came out.
And she just did
she just did it.
The kindness of her fucking heart, that angel, Mother Teresa.
I do not want to expose her. I do think she was enjoying some Mary Jane that night, and
Thank
which
God.
like is even makes her even cooler. So she was just swaying. Mark Ronson was there. I think
I love him. He's so he's amazing. Talented, amazing, handsome. His TikToks are amazing. His like content of like he is everything, Mark.
And very underrated, I think.
Yeah, especially because it's like he is like the Jack Antonoff to Amy Winehouse's entire career. So it's like he really is like he's really been there.
So
he's really been around the block, and like he's an incredible producer. I like all of his stuff, even with like Diplo and Electric City. I'm into it. I love Mark Ronson.
He played Public Records a few months ago, and I was meant to go, but I couldn't. But I need to see him.
He will do like
I saw him at Le Bon like two years ago.
One time he was like wasn't there, but he just played a night at Industry. Industry is like the most random like normal gay bar ever, and he was just like playing there. Yeah, it was like he was with it was during the Miley Cyrus. What was that?
2 blocks from Electric Lady in one of the gated townhouses.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So he was there, and it was so surreal. And
that's
she
also
gave
an amazing thing to say. Like I would never know what to say to someone like Lady Gaga, but like just saying like you inspired me to make more. That's probably like that.
All the time, but it meant a lot.
Out of her mind.
Exactly. It meant a lot to me that she made that moment so tender for myself and for everyone there. And also, I think she gave us like pillows that she had signed, and I still have that pillow to this day. Unfortunately, I washed it, and I had to wash it after like years.
Right.
And the memory will never fade in the wash, but. I remember when listening to the album in that moment, A Million Reasons, I think it's like one of the early tracks. And I remember thinking that song is special and that song will do something. And my friends who were with me at the time said the same thing. And so it was cool at the Super Bowl to then have this full circle moment of like that song getting its moment. So all that to say, anything Gaga did after that, I was gonna love.
You were gonna cash in for it.
And they say don't meet your heroes, and she was truly the exception because I feel like meeting her so early in college reshaped my conception of what was possible for my life, which is such an extreme statement, but it's because this person who I admired and idolized so much, I randomly had the chance to meet her and interact with her. So it felt like all these other things that feel out of the realm, maybe they're within reach, like writing a book. I always wanted to write a book, and I truly don't know if I would have had the capacity to visualize myself doing something that big if I hadn't had something so big happen so early on in my young adulthood. So thank you, Gaga.
Yes, thank you, Gaga. And also, what an amazing, like, you met someone you've always wanted to meet, and then in their height of everything, they were gracious, which were only like
so gracious.
You be more gracious, and
I am not gracious when I'm that high. So I was really impressed.
That is so beautiful.
She pulled it together for that moment.
Honestly, and that is maybe the most impressive thing she's ever done artistically, is pulling it together.
You know what? I would agree. It's funny because Nick Knight, one of her prominent creative directors that she works with recently said what separates Gaga from other artists is when she's working on a project, she says hi to everyone in the room, and then when the shoot is done, she thanks them by name, and then she leaves. And I often think talent can get you really far, but I think graciousness
Come on, people want to be around people.
Goes such a long way. I think about even Britney Spears compared to her contemporaries. Obviously, a lot of complicated history there, but I think the reason she rose so far is because everyone who worked with Britney said Britney's a girl's girl. She's so sweet.
Nice.
She's tender. Even like Bella and Gigi, they're known for being super nice. And I think that it separates them from a lot of people in that tier.
Absolutely. Okay, Saransh, we've made it to a little segment portion. Ooh. This is the Prattle Rattle Off. Prattle Rattle Off. So this is, I'm going to ask you some fun, cute, random questions, and you're just going to rattle off your little answers.
I can't wait.
Okay. You encounter a time machine. You can go back in time and go to one tour that you missed in your life. What tour are you going to?
Gaga or just in general?
Anyone's tour in history.
Oh my gosh. I have 2 answers.
Okay, perfect.
I have 3 answers. Is that okay?
The time machine doesn't run on fuel, so
okay,
you can
perfect.
do whatever you want. There's no
I would say the Beyonce experience.
Yeah.
Just because I just saw Beyonce for the first time a few months ago, Renaissance, and everyone who I met there was like, "You're persona and career." Monster Ball. I was too young, I think. Yeah. But I mean, that's just such a special tour. I love the HBO special.
I wanted to go to Monster Ball so much, and I asked my mom, and she said no because she was like, no, they do cocaine and weed in the audience there. And I was like, what do you think I'm gonna do? I'm like 14, but whatever. It's fine, I'll get there.
My third answer is much more down to earth, which is a concert I was actually supposed to go to. It was Kali Uchis and Georgia Smith in 2019. And I had already seen Georgia Smith, so I was really pushed for Kali.
Yeah.
But we pre-gamed a little too hard, and we arrived in the middle of the set, so we got their duet and then just Georgia. And I was so sad because I love Kali Uchis, and I had been anticipating that concert, and I had the ticket, and then I missed it. So if I could go back in time, I would leave the house an hour earlier and see Kali Uchis.
Kali is a hometown hero. Shout out Alexandria, Virginia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's from Alexandria. She went to the same high school as my dad.
She is.
Fun fact.
Talk about a creative force.
Oh my God.
So much precision and direction.
Also, I love the stories of how she was like, oh, her label always told her don't speak in Spanish, don't sing in Spanish. She like cut them, did Telepatia. That's definitely one of her biggest songs ever. And
what a lesson.
Yeah, what a lesson.
For following your own intuition.
The Ray School of get it done yourself.
Absolutely. Well, you should pitch that to her.
I should.
Like a class or something, a master class.
I should. Tré, just like that.
Come through.
Best movie that makes you reflect on your life. A movie that when you watch, it makes you sit and think.
I have to say Inside Out.
That's a good one.
Pixar film.
That's a good one.
My dad always says it's very cerebral, which is his dad humor. But yeah,
okay,
it is a good one.
It is a good one. I saw,
and I'm becoming like him with that kind of humor. But Inside Out, so I love it for many reasons. It's obviously it's a movie that will lead to a lot of introspection. But there's this one scene where Riley, the protagonist, cries when her family finds her. She's trying to run away, and she basically admits, I miss home, and she cries. And it's this cathartic moment of embracing sadness.
Yeah.
And I return to that whenever I need a release, and I feel like I'm trying to stay above water. Sometimes you need to let yourself go there into that subterranean space. Yes. So love that scene so much. And it's also just... Pixar movies are just so cute and
cute, amazing,
polished.
Teaches you about yourself. Like there's so much truth into it, and the dad's hot, so that's always a plus too.
I'm not gonna lie. Part of the influence for the stash was the Inside Out.
Oh my God, as it should be.
And I was weighing back and forth, and then someone said it kind of looked like that, and I was like, okay, I have to do that.
You've got to do it. Do you have a favorite male music artist?
My favorite male artist is this Scottish producer named Sam Gellatry. I just saw him 2 days ago at Elsewhere. He is such a wizard at producing house alternative R&B, and he is underrated for his pop vocal. Like he has a juicy pop vocal. It's giving like Justin Timberlake, even Janet Jackson. Like all the melodies are just very much in the pop realm, but his demographic is absolutely people who like electronic and hip hop. So love him so much. And it was nice to see him live because he was so approachable. He was just a dude who loves music.
Beautiful.
And I think this was his first show in New York, and he looked over the moon to see that he has all these diehard fans in New York. So love him. Shout out Sam Gallatry. So underrated. I want him to have a K Tronada as trajectory.
Yeah.
And he's good friends with K Tronada, and K Tronada collabed with him. So
it's happening.
I hope that this ages well and that he becomes really successful.
You've heard it here first.
Sam Gallatry. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sammy G.
Sammy G.
Sammy G.
What's the most annoying thing someone you're close with does?
Ooh. I think when I ask someone for their preference and instead of telling me what their actual preference is, they pretend to not care, but they actually do care.
Do not have that hidden agenda bullshit with me.
I just I appreciate directness. It's not going to hurt my feelings, especially for like pithy small things like, do you want to go to this restaurant or this restaurant?
Right.
Or would you mind if I did X? If you're going to mind, please just tell me. I'm all about communication.
Right.
So it's not a super prevalent thing, but I just rather... I think it's amazing to have the courage of your own convictions. Just tell me.
Just tell me.
I won't care.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
But I will care if you let the resentment build and then you lash out at me later because you didn't express
Absolutely,
it
and that's all your fault, and I have nothing to do with that. So fuck you. No,
Thank you.
We're friends.
I like you're taking away all my accountability. I like
no, but that's disingenuous to like give an answer that I'm supposed to read between the lines. Like, no, you've got to say what you got to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're too old for the gossip.
We are
and
too
reading in
old.
between. Yeah.
Final question. What's one game show that you just know you'd win?
Ooh. No longer on the air, but 2010's Ellen, her little 2010's Ellen, her little side competitions, pop culture trivia, burning questions. I think I'd do that. I also think I would fail at most game shows spectacularly. So I had to go for like something that's game show adjacent.
But you did any trivia show, you'd kill.
Trivia, it depends on the trivia. Maybe music trivia.
Yeah.
But there's certain trivia. Anything involving physical coordination, I can barely open like bottles. A lot of my close friends and my family tease me. They say, you're good at a lot of complex things, but you're really bad at a lot of simple things, which I agree with.
That's the mark of a genius.
My partner the other day had to help me like put a drawer back in and like align it. And our laundry came back and I was like, oh my God, putting the fitted sheet on takes so long. And I needed help. I needed support.
And you know what? And that's beautiful. And
we all have our strengths.
We're all
and our weaknesses.
And you know who's always there for you?
Who?
Lady Gaga. So
thank you
right?
so much for saying that and reminding me.
And thank you for coming onto Prattle. Please let them know where they can find you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
You can find me at my website, saranshdc.com. I also have an Instagram where I share music, research updates, writing updates at by Saransh. And everything else is linked there. You can also get my book if you want. It's at any local bookstore, also Amazon. It's called Soundstorm. And thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so that's Soundstorm by Saransh Desai-Chowdhry. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Prattle with Tré Vayne. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode.
For having me. Bye.
Thank you. Ciao.